Hey guys, me again, Orcs What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. So where I last left off, Deku has officially began his training that his father started putting him through. They went to Canada, if I remember, and they went to like a remote part of Canada where they could do his training properly. It was 6 months out there, being with only his dad, as his dad did tell him a lot of stories. I didn't say this, but he did tell him a lot of stories while they were out there, saying how I remember I told you guys that in the part one, part one, is that he told, part one, part two, part two, he told him about the story where he went on his first mission, but I digress. As they fought like a little group of orcs, Hizashi winning and all them winning without major problems, aside with Deku and Izumi, where Izumi pretty much electrocuted one to death with warp lightning, and Deku had to stab his. As with that, I finished off the episode where Deku, Izumi, and Hizashi went out to check a small disturbance, and what they found was a chaos weapon and a few other things, but the chaos weapon was thrown right back into the warp. But I'm finished with the recount, so let's continue the story. Last part I said Deku and Izumi were by themselves at the house. So as Deku and Izumi are just bored out of their minds, Deku just decides to go down to the secret room and just gets the weapons he's been training with and starts training with them. Lifting them and swinging them around, trying to get the steps his father taught him down right. Where Izumi begins to start to meditate and channel the warp into different things. As she starts trying to make minor illusions with them, which I believe is something psychers can do. She makes her favorite character from her favorite TV show. I'll just say it's the magical, the the stereotypical magical girl series, aside not the really messed up ones. As Deku's training, they hear as a what was that? As they go down to see over by the area, as they've been taught what this stuff is and how to read it. As Izumi's it's a warp signature that's open and it's a bit big. He's like, what should we do? I think we should call Mom and Dad. Shouldn't we just check it out first? As she's like, no, that's too dangerous, Deku. He's like, come on. Mom and Dad haven't... Well, not Deku's saying that, but Izumi's saying that. Deku being more cautious when it comes to it, saying that his dad's told him all about the warp and the stuff that can come out of it. While Izumi counter-argues, saying that Mom's been training her day and night how to deal with this sort of stuff. They should be fine with just the two of them, as Deku's like, alright. Going over and grabbing his gear. He still takes the same thing he took yesterday, as it's the bolt pistol, the las rifle, and the combat knife. As he's like, ready, Izumi? She's like, of course I am. As she's got her... she's got her armor and everything that she would bring along. As Deku and her use the teleportation to get over there. It's in the middle of the desert, I would say, is where it is. As Inko and Hizashi did get the notification of, oh, there's something going down at the house, as they did try to call Deku and Izumi, but they had already left. So Inko's like, excuse me, my kids were supposed to call me at this time. It was been an hour since they were supposed to call me. I'm gonna go check on them. As people at the place where she works are like, alright, Inko, you've been doing a lot around lately. And Hizashi says, yeah, my kids were supposed to call me an hour ago. Bye. As he left immediately, as everyone else is like, alright. Since he's I'll say he's a manager now. Not doing all the physical activity, he's more or less just, filing reports and such. As when they get there, Inko's like, alright, where are they? As we cut over like 20 minutes earlier. Well, 30 minutes, I'll say. Earlier is when Deku and Izumi step through. As when they step through, this is what happens. They're looking around like, alright, you ready, Deku? Ready as we should be. As they're like taking steps, as Deku's like, we'll be quiet and careful, alright? Izumi's like, I know, Deku, just stop, get off my back. He's like, don't let your overconfidence kill us, please. She's like, oh, we're not gonna die. He's like, we saw an orc come out of there with a giant gun. I don't think either of us would be prepared for that if it showed up now, would we? She's like, no. He's like, good. Now let's be careful. As they're taking a calm and collected approach towards it. He's pointing his last gun, and he even has his like bolt pistol like out as he's like, as Izumi has her like a little sword, has her sword and like a bit of the like keeping the warp, well, keeping like a bit of like a fireball ready in her hand to chuck it at anything. As when they get to it, it's like, oh, it's nothing. So I guess we just close up the portal. As Deku's like, there's nothing here. As immediately as he says that, there's a thud on the ground, then thump 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 thump. As Deku's like, what? Wait, what the? As he gets hit out of the way, as Izumi's picked up and put against the tree. As it's a very bad thing that has come out of the warp portal. It's as what has grabbed her, as I've said, is very, very bad. It's a chaos demon of Slanesh, specifically a female. As Slanesh is, as I probably stated beforehand, the arch enemy of the Eldar. I thought it would be fitting, as it just popped into my head. So as she starts speaking in her, as she like starts speaking, I don't believe Slanesh has a different language. As the demon starts speaking, she says, where are we, dear child? As she's like holding up her, as she then looks, like takes a closer look, and then notices her armor and ears. She's like, oh, are we on a craft world by any chance? As it lets off its twisted smile. As Izumi's terrified, as Deku's like, dang it. As he's getting up, she's like, stay down, otherwise your sister gets it. As Deku does have slightly pointed ears. As she's like, wait a second, you're not a full Eldar, you're a half-breed. So it's not possible for us to be on a craft world. Maybe, interesting. As her smile grows even wider, she says, where, dear child, are your parents? As Izumi's like, I won't tell you anything, as she's like trying to get her thing off, as then she thrusts a bit of fire right into the demonette's face, as she's like grabs her face, as she's like, as I believe demonettes are masochist and sadist. So as she starts screaming like with excitement and pleasure of like the pain, how it hurts and how it's good. Yes, if you can't tell, it's extremely uncomfortable, so I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can. But as the demonette's like screaming, Deku's like, this is bad, I told you we shouldn't have come alone. She's like, if we didn't come now, that thing would have gotten away someplace. He's like, no it wouldn't have, it would have waited. As Deku's like, alright, plan of attack. Hit it with fire, I try to stab it, well actually, I shoot the hell out of it. As he rips out, as he gets his guns, as he fires once with his bolt pistol, then lets off like, as he just unleashes the amount, like a large amount of fire from his las gun, as it's like do 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 do. As the demonette quickly, like, almost elegantly, the twisted sense of the word, bobs and weaves out from the bullets, as then he's like, she's getting closer, as he fires a few more times, quickly throws the last gun as he rushes forward trying to get after her with his knife. As she, I believe they have like claws and such, sort of grabs his arm with his claw, like blocks the knife with the claw as he goes to like take his bolt pistol and sort of like struggle with her. She's like, as she like takes a sniff of him. Ah, you smell like an Eldar too, but you both are different. Very, very different. Most definitely half-breeds, but... As Deku's like, hey, guess what? She's like, what? What happened to your knee? As he, like, kicks forward, as he, like, gets her knee as it goes, bends the wrong way, as she, like, lets off a little scream, as this was not one of enjoyment, but of actual pain, as he's like, eat it, as he backhands her with his bolt pistol. Shoots a couple more times. She's like, I am made of the warp. That won't do much for long. As he's like, I know that. As he sort of has gotten her a bit more towards the warp portal. As he's like, but still, as he like shoots, like uses the last of his shots, as he's like, Izumi, focus fire with the las rifle. As she starts laying into her las fire as well. As it like is pushed almost to the back, as she lets off a psychic scream. Deku covering his ears as she pretty much rushes forward, slaps the bolt pistol out of his hand and the knife. As then she picks him up, she's like, you die first. As she goes to like sort of, you could say slit his throat with her little crab claw. As Izumi shoots her with more las fire. As then she pretty much throws Deku away as he like hits a tree like wham. As the demonette picks up her and is about to take her back into the warp, saying that you will help us. Trying to drag her back, as this demonette was on a battlefield where there were many other demons of the other chaos gods. As before she's able to get back, like Izumi struggles out as she like is able to grab her warp fire and hits her in the foot with some ice. As her foot gets stuck, before she's able to get away completely, the Slanesh demon takes her crab claw and like thrusts it right into this Izumi's side. As Deku's like, no, dang it! As he struggles to get up, as he like gets on his feet, he's like, alright. As the demonette's about to like finish Izumi off, as Izumi's like stuck there in her grasp, Deku's like, hey, demon! As he rushes forward and tackles her. As she's like, what are you doing? As Deku pretty much charges into like the warp area where Izumi is. As he's like, Izumi, close the portal once I enter. As before, they're able, like, as Inko and Hizashi arrive 10 minutes after, as Izumi has closed up the portal. As when they get there, they're like, where's Deku? As Izumi crying, saying he got... As she's just like sort of just breathing heavily, as she's having somewhat of a... Before she was having a full-blown panic attack, now she's not, and now she's just silent, dead silent. And with Izumi being dead silent, like Inko's like, where is Deku? As she's like sort of shaking her. As Hizashi comes over and looks on the ground, as he's like, and picks up Deku's little bolt gun, or actually combat knife. As Deku has kept that combat knife like pretty much on his person at all times. As when it was hit, he's like, Izumi, did Deku go in? As she just looks down even deeper, he's like, as he goes over by a tree and just like leans against it. As he says, damn it, as he like takes his fist and smashes straight through the tree. He's like, what were you thinking? Why did you come by yourself? As she says, she thought it was nothing. Like, nothing ever comes out of these. He's like, you saw what came out of the portals at times. It was dangerous. As she's like, she just cries even more. As Hizashi is just like really, really sad now that he's lost his son in his eyes. And so Inko's like even like very sad, as they don't know what they're gonna. Aside from that, they don't know what they're gonna say about Deku just disappearing. So when police come, they can't really say anything. Is that they don't know, as they make up a lie saying that Deku and Izumi were supposed to stay here for today, because later tonight that they were all gonna go out and have like dinner and see a movie and such. But when they got back, Izumi was here by herself and Deku was nowhere to be seen. As they make up a lie, as they have like their little hiding place, like somewhere very, like it can't be opened by the easiest means or located. Sorry. As we cut over back to what happened with Deku, as Deku's like tackled this thing, as he's like, as it goes to grab him, he like punches her in the face. He's like, "Get out of here, demon!" As he like finally like jumps off and kicks her in the face once more, as she's then snatched away in the warp, as she like sort of goes back to the battlefield, where she's instantly chopped to pieces by Demon of Corn. As Deku saw that, where she like was recovering, as then a greater demon came over, stepped on her, and just pretty much ripped her in half. Things about to get gory. As Deku's like, eat it. As then he like realizes, oh shit, I'm stuck in the warp. As he like starts freaking out for a split second, he's like, "You are the grandson of Sanguinius. You show no fear." As he's like, "Dad said he prayed to the Emperor." So he's like, dear Emperor of mankind, if you hear me, please help me. Technically I'm your grandson. Or wait, your great grandson. As he's like, please help me out. And Sanguinius, if you're out there, please help me too. As he himself feels himself being tugged, but it's not the same way, as he immediately starts like sort of spinning, as then as he smacks his whole body gets hit right on top of the ground. He's like, oh. As he like shakes his head, he's like, where am I? This does not feel good. As he gets up, his Hizashi got a bit dizzy from that fall when he hit the ground as hard as Deku did. So Deku's like, oh. As he's like sort of like on his knees, like, As he's like, where am I? Looking up and around, he's like, I don't recognize this place. As he's, alright. Stay calm, Deku, stay calm. As he's checking his person, like, what does he have? And when he pulls out, all he has is the Imperial Aquila. It's like one of the things that came through a portal, and his father pretty much gave it to him, as it's like I believe it's the two-headed eagle. Like, the two-headed eagle is what the Imperial Aquila is, if I remember. Yep, it is the Imperial Aquila with the two-headed eagle. I should be putting a picture up. So, with that, what happens afterwards is this. Deku's looking around, he's like, as he has the Imperial Aquila, like, attached to a chain in his hand, he's like, I guess I'll... As he looks around, he sees, like, a little bit of a hill. He's like, alright. As the skies aren't normal, they're, like, covered in purple or something. He climbs up a hill, he's like, where am I? So he looks over, as he's like, bunch of forest, and that's it. He's looking around as he sees nothing, except for like a bit of forest. Then he sees like a bit like mountains like over yonder, so he's like, start heading that way. I guess, maybe, I don't know. As he like takes a minute to sit on top of the hill, then he's like, alright, your dad trained you for a situation like this. Actually trained you to survive in the wild, but on your own, not in the frickin' warp or wherever I am. Maybe this is just a planet. The sky isn't purple, it's black. As he's like, nighttime, alright. He'll stay on the hill until morning, as he's able to stay awake for much longer than the normal than a normal person. So he would be able to stay awake without being like impeded or anything. I'll say for like 4 days, since he's like not fully done. Not 4 days, like I believe it's he can go like 100 hours or so without sleep. I'll say that's how long it takes for him to like fall asleep. Is that, yeah, 100 hours seems fair. So as he's like, alright, as he starts his march, he's like, alright, this shouldn't take too long. So he's like, after like day comes up, he's like, alright. He starts his long track as he moves through the forest after, and what he does is that he takes a spear. He pretty much makes a makeshift spear, or like a club or something like that. As he's walking around with it, he's like, alright. As it takes him like a day or so to get to the mountain, as he's going like full speed ahead. Since he ate a big breakfast before then, he doesn't really feel that hungry, so he's making his way. Eventually arriving at the mountain, he's like, alright. As he starts trying to like get up there, as he's like, okay. Looking around, he's like, as he sees something in the distance, he's like, is that a ship? Looking at it, he's like, alright. As he starts going down the mountain, moving his way through, he eventually hears something as there's just thunk, 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 thunk. As it's like, brother, why are we moving here?
As it's like, brother. Sorry. Actually, as it says, why have you stopped? Sorry, heard something, Sergeant Nevron.
As Deku's like, Nevron, isn't that Dad's? As he's looking down, it's just like, up there! As the Space Marine like quickly turns and uses his bolter fire, as it's like, hold your fire! As Deku like sort of like ducked down as he's looking at them. As soon as he like sees that they're all looking directly at him, he starts like scrambling up like the hill and starts running as it's like, you fool, you've scared him
off! As they start running, it's like, child, get back here! As
Deku's like, nope, 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 they just shot at me, they just shot at me! As he like goes down and like runs into the forest, as it's like, brother, why did you shoot at him? He's like, I thought it was an enemy. As Deku like climbs up a tree, as it's like, we will search the forest for him. That is final. As Nevron's orders are taken seriously as they like move out, as they start sweeping the forest. As Deku's like I said, he's hiding in a tree, so he's like, okay, just stay quiet, just stay quiet. As he's sitting there, he's like, Nevron, Dad says that's the one he considered his brother, right? As Deku's looking down, it's like, brother,
you sure you can't see him? He's like, yes. As then
Deku's like breathing kind of hard as he's like, brother's
quiet. You there, go around and get into the tree. As
the guy's like, alright, as he starts climbing, like, not climbs up a tree, but he's like ready to jump up. As he's able to jump up, the guy's able to jump pretty high, and Deku didn't get into a high enough tree, you could say. As Deku's sitting there, the Space Marine jumps up, snatches him with one hand, and has him in his arms. As Deku swung backwards with his like makeshift club, as the stone just shatters upon, like, as Deku swung it hard, as the Space Marine actually kind of felt it a little bit, as he's like, this child seems to be strong. And as Deku's like trying to shake out of his grasp, he's like, let me go, as he like sort of punches the helmet, as Deku's like, ow, as it's like, child, it would not be wise to fight. As at first they thought it was at first they were like, they thought it was a child or a human. Then they're just like, it sounds like a child or like a young teenager. As then they notice that has like armor of the Imperial Guard decked on him. He's like, what
regiment do you come from, Guardsman? He's like,
I don't come from any regiment. What are you talking about? As it's like, this is definitely a child.
But from where? As he's like, what is your home world?
Earth? He's like,
You come all the way from Holy Terra.
Deku's like, what's Terra? As, well, not what's Terra, but Terra, where am I? Wait, when am I? As they're like, what is the deal with this child? Matters not.
Brothers, bring him along. As Deku's
Pretty much tied up and like carried on the shoulder of the one that catched him. As they start running as they start walking. It's like, brother,
Why do not, Captain Nervon, why do we not simply run? As it says, the child may gain whiplash, Space Marine. It would not be good to, like, have this child not be in his right state of mind, now would it? No, it wouldn't, sir. He's like, there. Now, child, can you tell me
your name? It's like, I'm, well, Deku. I'm just saying the name Deku, he's still named Izuku. As it's like, Izuku Midoriya, as he's like, Midoriya. As, though, I believe some Space Marines do have last names, not entirely sure, but I'll just say the last name Midoriya was Sasashi's last name. As he's like, well, Midoriya, I am Sergeant Nevron of the as you are part of the Lamenters chapter, Sons of Sanguinius. He's like, correct. How do you know that? He's like, as he just goes quiet as he's like, this child is very strange, isn't he, brother? He's like, indeed he is, brother. As they make their way back to the ship, and when they get to the ship, Deku sees that this place isn't just like abandoned or decrepit. It actually has fortifications with neophytes and such training, as they're like combating each other and beating the crap out of each other, target practice and such. You know, there's a bit of a tech priest going around doing maintenance, as Deku's like, this place is weird. As he sees a servitor fly by, as it looks on his head, he's like, what's the deal with the skulls? He's like,
that is a servitor, Midoriya. They are helpers, you could say. Deku's like,
okay. As they walk into the thing, as some of the people are looking at this like child they brought on their shoulder that's wearing guardsman armor, it's like, oh, guardsmen, I didn't know any of them were alive. As when they get in there, they pretty much dump them into like a cell. As it's like, well, not dump him into the cell, they actually take him to their librarian. As on the way there, they like run into Brother Agron. As Brother Agron's
like, who is this? Nervon.
It's like, this is Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. It seems he's aware of our chapter, but I do not know where. He's like,
Then take him to the librarian. Should be able to scan their minds.
It's like, that is what we intended to do, Dreadnought Agron. He's like, very well, I will speak.
I have other duties to attend to. Walking off.
As I know some dreadnoughts like are put to sleep, and they have done that with Agron a little bit. He's been recently reactivated, so that way he would be able to teach some of the younger students or younger neophytes and such about some of the things about being a lamenter and the like. As I know that's what some dreadnoughts do, is that they're like teachers and advisors. Like Bjorn Fellhanded is like, he's a venerable dreadnought, which is like used as a advisor. But I digress. As Deku's like taken before the librarian. As this librarian, I'll just call him the librarian for now. As with that, what happens is this. As the librarian's like, who's this you've brought before me, Nervon? He's like, this is Izuku Midoriya. I would like you to read his mind. He is not telling us any information about where he comes from and who he is, aside from his name. He's like, very well. As the librarian starts to read Deku's mind, but as he knows that it's actually kind of harder to like pierce into Deku's mind that would be typical for another being or another person or child. As he says, his mind is a bit stronger than the average person, but shouldn't take too long. As when they're looking, as he's like, sees a few flickers here and there that peeks out, as he hears Hazashi's voice, as it's like, listen to me, Deku. As it's like, Hazashi? As Nirvan's like, Hazashi? As he steps forward, what do you mean? He's like, give me a minute. As he tries to force even deeper into Deku's mind, as he sees what had happened with... Where was I? Ah, yes. As he pushes deeper into Deku's mind, he finds more and more information. Nothing made, just like bits and pieces, and even sees a bit of things, like where he saw Deku standing like next to Hazashi looking up at him, as Hazashi's like has Deku like near him. As he hears your mother and your sister will, as then it cuts back, like as it, then that's when he like stops, feeling that he's putting a lot of pressure on Deku's mind, and he's starting to like hurt, you could say. Deku's like, my head. As it's like, what did you see, librarian? He's like, this cannot be. A space marine doesn't have children. As he's like, what do you mean? He's like, this, if what I heard and saw to be true, this is Hazashi's son. As Nirvan and some of the other space marines with him say, that cannot be possible. Space marines, as he says, that is what I just said, and why it isn't. As he like finishes what he was saying, is that it's not possible that a space marine can't have children, as I believe they can't, like they aren't sterilized, but what is that they are just indoctrinated so much that they don't really want to have children or anything along those lines. Following that is how essentially what they do with Deku and such. My headphones come unplugged. There we go. So following that, they essentially like, as they have Hazashi's like essentially they got like his DNA, you could say, like records of it, as they start checking it out, as they're like get a blood sample from him. As Deku taking this chance, even being as dizzy as he was, as they were all arguing, Deku just sort of bailed out there and just started walking, as he's like, I can't stay here. As he sort of falls down and just like sees a vent, as he rips it open and just gets in there, seeing this as like his only opportunity. As the Space Marines turn around, alright Deku, listen, we're gonna... Where did he go? As they're looking around, they're like, find the kid now. As they talk with some tech priest saying that there's a child somewhere around here and that they need their servitors to find him. As Deku's like, where? Gotta get going. As he sort of falls unconscious in the vents. As what happens after that is that a servitor finds him as it drags him out. As it's like, alright, the apothecary isn't here right now. He went on a long duration training mission where with some of the initiates and such. So for now we will take him and put him in the cells. As it's like, are you sure, Nirvan? He's like, this is the best option I would see so far. As they follow their captain's orders, Deku's put in the cells, as he stays there for over a week. As they come by and question Deku, as Nirvan says, so, is it true that you're Hazashi's son? As he says, as Deku stays there quiet. How is my brother doing? As Deku looks at him, he's like, he's doing fine. It's like, really? He's like, he has a family now. He's like, what's your sister like? He's like, she's tall, green hair, and looks a lot like our mother. He's like, what's your mother like? He's like, that's complicated. As Deku just like, before he goes on to talk even more about what there is, there's like, right, what was this? As he's like, now, why was I called for? Well, not why was I called for, but as the captain comes looking in as well, he's like, Nirvan. He's like, Captain. He's like, who's this? He's like, if what the librarian is, if what the librarian said is to be believed, this is Deku, Hazashi's son. He's like, as he's like, looks down at Deku, as Deku sort of is intimidated by this, as this Space Marine is a bit tall, is like a little bit taller than Nirvan, as he looks down at not Hisashi, at Deku, saying, "Child, name now." As Deku, like, an instinct gets up, he's like, Izuku Midoriya, sir, son of Hisashi Midoriya, as he, like, says, why did I say that? As he's like, seems you are right. Tell me, how did you arrive here? As he's like, we will not do anything to hurt you, child. If you are truly the son of our brother, that makes you one of us. Now, I would like you to answer the question. He's like, I came from a warp portal. He's like, explain. My parents explained it like this, is that, as he goes into, like, how his parents explained it, saying that the warp is strained there, but occasional warp portal does open up, and it's, like, somewhere different. It's not this universe, as he would say it. Not where the Imperium reigns. It's like, no. It's like, this is peculiar. Give me more information. Tell me about this world you grow up in. It's, the year 2006. He's like, 2060. That is true, indeed, truly, a long ways back. As Deku says, my mother's part of a company, is a high-ranking member of a company, and my father is a manager at construction. Well, yeah, I'd say construction may work well with Hisashi being more physically, like, evolving, or like like the manager of, like, storage, like a storage place. But as he still gives him the answers, saying that in the world where I am, the year 2060, everyone has superpowers called quirks. As he's like, truly? He's like, yeah. He's like, is this a mark of the warp, possibly? He's like, no, it isn't. As Hisashi's like, my mom and dad, my mom's a psyker. As Nirvan's like, really? He's like, she says that when it first started happening, they got a chance to get close to some of the children, and there were no marks of the warp on them. Nothing of that caliber. So, listening closer to, like, Deku's every word, taking in all the information, Deku finishes it. So, this isn't a mark of the warp. Chaos. This is just something that's happened in your universe. Yep. It's like, so. It's not the year 2060, sorry, he explains that it's year 2060 is when the first quirk appeared. I believe it's like 2120? 2120 or around that. I think it's around that time is when My Hero Academia actually takes place. Not 2120. Maybe like 22, possibly. But I'm not entirely sure. As he goes in to explain, like, what his quirk is, well, he doesn't tell his quirk or what his sister's quirk is, since his sister's quirk isn't a quirk at all. But his quirk is what it is. As he's like, what's your quirk? As Deku stays silent. Child, as eventually the apothecary returns, saying that he will do the test now. As he takes Deku away, essentially. As he pretty much has to strap Deku down, since Deku's, like, really nervous. It's like, be at ease, child. I am a trained professional. He's like, are you even a trained doctor? He's like, I have been put through many trials to become an apothecary. I am entrusted with collecting gene seed when, as Deku says, when a space marine falls. It's like, so you are aware of my position. It's like, yep, my dad told me. Like, well, you shall see. As he pretty much gets a smaller syringe and draws the blood, as he starts running the DNA test, he's like, as he takes the test, as he was put back into the brig, it's like, The results are in, Captain and Navon. He truly is Hisashi Midoriya's son. They're like, how is this possible? He's like, maybe the warp when he was thrown out messed with his genetics, you could say. It's like, that is not the only thing I found. As he pulls up scans, he's like, do you know what this is? As they're like, it's a scan from the Marines. Do you know what this is? Another scan from the Marines, as Navon says. Wrong on both occasions. What? As these are X-ray scans of Deku. As it's like, not possible. Hisashi couldn't have been implanting. He's like, I'm not finished yet. Unlike ours, which are implanted, these have genetically grown in, or are growing in. As you can see, they're not complete, as he is not of age to be done growing. I hypothesize. My mouth's dry. Dang it. I hypothesize. Sorry. Hypothesize that Deku will finish when Deku finishes growing. He'll be far superior than your average space marine. So, and for that, one guy says, I think he says, never mind. This is a space marine what if? Sorta. So as they're going over, they just hear, as some of the men are just like, not possible, impossible. As they start going over, as he says, if what this child says about his world is true, then I hope I'm not repeating myself. I had to stop the recording last night, or yesterday, whichever you prefer. And he explains that if what the child is saying is true, that Hisashi transported, it's possible that Hisashi's biology was changed to, instead of being implanted, it was ingrained into his genetic coding, or DNA, as they would say, saying giving his children the possibility of being what the Space Marines are. So, going along with those lines of thought, listening to the apothecary, everyone's like, as a few of them don't understand, and but a bit more of them do. Following this, following the line of thought, they all start going over it. As another week passes, as in this time, Deku has started to feel like a pain, like starting to like spread, as he's like, as he like thinks it's just that he like needs to stretch, since he's been like in the brig, like essentially a little prison cell, for a long while. As when he's like, hey, can I get out of here, please? The guys are, everything already, so what's the point in trying to hide anything? It's like, as the Marines stationed to around to guard him are dead silent. As he's like, could I have a book? As, again, dead silence. As he hasn't eaten a thing in like a day or so, so he's like, and he's pretty much been awake constantly. Like, he's been awake for, he went to bed at like one point, and then like has been staying up. He's like, oh. As he just starts counting, essentially is all he does. Counting like how many, first he counted how many poles or like spaces are in between like the bars of the cell or whatever. Then he started counting like how many footsteps he would hear as they walked back and forth. Counted how many times he would hear like a creaking in the ship. As it's just like, as the Space Marines are like, feel bad for this kid. As then out of nowhere, Deku just lets off like a, this does not feel well. Him thinking that there's something wrong. He's like, hey, can you get a doctor or something? As he's like, I don't feel too well. As he's like, there's something wrong with my back or something. As Space Marines are dead quiet again. As then out of nowhere, he falls on the ground and is just like, ow, 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 this does not feel right. as Space Marines thinks he's just bluffing. As in, like, Deku, like, he has, like, his armor still, so he, like, takes off the armor. As then, one of them, as they, like, see him do this, is like, I do not think he's bluffing, brother. As when they see him, like, strap off the armor, they see a little thing, like, starting to poke out of, like, his back, as they're like, what the hell? As then they bring the one that's, like, concerned, quote-unquote, walks over as he sees that there's two points pointing out of Deku's back, as he's like, brother, I'm going to get the apothecary right now. As he runs off, as the other Marine's like, what? As he looks back at Deku, he's like, oh god. As he's like, by the Emperor. He has his bolter on standby, just in case this kid's like, is a demon or something. They don't, like, has some form of a demon or something inside of him. As he's standing there with the bolter at the ready, it's like, why do you need me? As the apothecary comes in, as he sees Deku's back, as he's like, what in the actual hell? So he comes over looking at the thing. As then he's like, quickly, take him to the medic chamber. Doing this, like, checking on what this is and such, he checks on Deku and sees what's in his back. As he uses his x-ray, he's like, oh, that's what that is. As he's like, what is it, brother? As he's like, get me a knife. He's like, what? He's like, I said get me a frickin' knife. So as, like, the Space Marine, like, walks over and grabs a combat knife or something along those lines, as it's like, child, this will hurt a lot. Deciding to listen, as Deku, like, braces himself as he, like, grabs the side of the bed. He's like, it's gonna hurt. As he slices open, like, the two parts where the 2 points are picking out at. As he did that, it's bloody. As it, like, sort of breaks out of Deku's skin as he finally falls unconscious. Two little things that look weird, as the apothecary would describe them as 2 wings. Yes. And with this cliffhanger, I'm gonna end it right here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. So yeah, hope y'all have a nice day. And also, I may be changing it from Space Marine to Lamenter, like the title. Like, what if Deku was a Lamenter? Anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.